Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live news up at Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. My name is Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition. Some $40 million worth of medication stuck at the Tama port for nearly a year finally cleared after public outcry. We'll hear from the Ministry of Finance, which is hinting of an intergovernmental committee to fast-track the release of the medications at the country's ports later here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
Also tonight, as the Ghana Private Roads and Transport Union and the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council advise commuters not to pay any fare outside the existing fares, operators in the Western region insist they would not back down on their 20% hike in fares.
Plus, Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry attributes slow progress of work on government projects to reduce flooding on the lack of funding and the late release of funds.
90% of the projects you're talking about the sanitation and the cities and what have you, boils down funding. Contractors, we are ready with the capacity that's supposed to have been. Give us the opportunity now, and we are going to deliver it well.
That's one of the latest in business, sports and entertainment over the next 1 hour, 30 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM 927, and you can log on to Facebook right now and get to see all the documents and the videos we're going to be also showing alongside the stories we're going to be talking about. And if you feel strong about the issues we will be talking about here on Hot Edition, you can share your thoughts with us on Facebook, also on X and on WhatsApp 053 23000927 05323000927. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Grace Hamwa Jiman is here with a summary of the news. Grace.
Hello, Alfred. Let's get straight into it. And the Ministry of Finance has hinted of setting up an intergovernmental committee in an effort to fast-track the release of medications at the country port. This comes after delays in releasing Global Fund medications at the Tama port. 14 containers of malaria HIV medications were on April 12 released by the GRA to the Ministry of Health. These products, estimated at about some $40 million, have been at the ports for close to a year. The Global Fund, a major financier for Ghana's HIV, TB, and malaria programs, has been supporting the country with health financing, but ECOWAS, COVID-19, and African Union levies on medical shipments at the ports valued at $3.6 million have made it impossible for medical supplies to be cleared. To some other stories, the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industries has blamed the slow progress of work on lack of funding for some major government projects. Minister for Works and Housing, Kojo Nkrumah, bemoaned the slow pace of work on the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development GARID projects. The initiative aims to improve flood risk and solid waste management while enhancing access to basic infrastructure and services in flood-prone, low-income communities within the Greater Accra region. But the minister, who was speaking with the construction chamber, says a slow pace of progress is worrying as the rainy season approaches. And Democracy Hub and 23 others have filed documents at the court asking that the case against IGP for alleged assault during Occupy Jilobi protests be readmitted by the High Court. And Accra High Court on Tuesday struck out the case by the group on grounds of want of prosecution, with none of the parties in the case present when the case was called. But according to the group, they were not notified of the new hearing date following a rescheduling of the earlier proposed date of April 4. That's it for the summaries, Alfred.
Grace, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for this. And there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. We'll get some more details on that. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's get into the issues now.
And details of that story you just heard, and the Ministry of Finance says it is setting up an intergovernmental committee in effort to fast-track the release of medications at the country's port. This follows delays in releasing Global Fund medications at the Tema port. These products, estimated at about some $40 million, have been at the port for close to a year. The Global Fund, a major financier for Ghana's HIV, TB and malaria programs, has been supporting the country with health financing, but ECOWAS, COVID-19 and African Union levies on medical shipments at the port, valued at $3.6 million, have made it impossible for the medical supplies to be cleared. George Winford has been addressing the media.
$40 million Ghana cedis was made by the Ministry of Finance to cover transnational taxes, that is AU and ECOWAS levies. What remained outstanding to be settled was the associated third-party charges, which the donors per hour earlier the understanding had committed to take up. Unfortunately, upon arrival of the consignment at the port, the associated charges could not be paid, and this information was also not communicated to the Ministry of Finance on time. Coupled with this, our investigations also confirms that many of the players in the health delivery chain still do understand the exemptions arrangement, hence the delays in the clearing of consignments at the port. Upon establishing these facts, the Ministry of Finance coordinated with Ministry of Health, Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, NIB, and other governmental agencies came together to ensure that the situation was resolved as soon as possible. Going forward, to ensure that such an incident does not recur, an intergovernmental committee is being set up comprising of representatives from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, and Ghana Revenue Authority. The committee will work together to address such matters should they come up, to ensure their swift resolution. The Ministry of Finance will continue to organize sensitization workshops to bridge the knowledge gap of our stakeholders. To our development partners, we are immensely grateful for your continued support, and we hope that this intervention reassures you that your support is valued and is making Ghana great. The impact is also very, very good for us. In concluding, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to once again add my voice to the press release issued by the Ministry of Health to reassure our stakeholders and the general public that the challenges associated with clearing of Ministry of Health medicines and other commodities from the Tema port and other points of entry have been conclusively and completely resolved by the government. This afternoon's function is to symbolically hand over the first batch of containers to the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service Authority.
And you just heard George Winford. He's Director, Revenue Policy Division at the Ministry of Finance. I'm joined in the studio now by Ebenezer Ejekum. He's my colleague who covered this very event for us. Ebenezer, you were there. Tell us what happened.
Okay, Beatrice, it was a short ceremony. It took about 30 minutes, and it was really short. So, in effect, 14 out of 182 40-footer containers were released. So with the 182, only 14 are released today. Already the government had made payment of $40 million those cover ECOWAS and other taxes. So they will need about 17 million cedis to finish everything, to get all the containers cleared from the port. From what we hear from the Customs Division of the GRA, they will be doing that in batches, so that the place is not congested with a lot of trucks. So they will do that. They will make sure it's done for them.
So give us the numbers again. 14 out of 17 containers were cleared. Is that what you're saying?
14 containers out of 182. And each container is a 40-footer one. So huge containers. So we have HIV medications, malaria medications, mosquito nets, and other malaria rapid test kits in the data.
So these 14 that were cleared out of the 100 and something, you talk about they being cleared in batches. Did you get a sense of within which period the rest will be cleared?
From Ministry of Health, they're looking at around 19th of this month to make
clear
sure
all of them.
All other documentations are done so that they are cleared.
In addition to that, we know that these drugs have been there for at least almost a year now. Was the Food and Drugs Authority there to ensure that the drugs being offloaded were wholesome?
Yes, before the first container was opened, they made sure the officials from FDA were present. The seal was broken, it was open, they took a box, but what they did was sampled the medications, because they cannot go take all the boxes
each of them,
out.
certainly.
They sampled and they assured that they will follow up and make sure whatever is distributed from the warehouses is wholesome for consumption.
We know that prior to today, the Global Fund had expressed concern. In fact, it had warned that if the drugs were not cleared within a particular period, it would advise itself. Did the Health Ministry respond to that concern?
Yes, the Chief Director of the Ministry of Health, Alhaji Hafiz Adams, made it clear that they are in talks with Global Fund, and such a thing like they advising themselves not to supply drugs to Ghana has not come up. So he really debunked the assertion that the Global Fund has stopped supplying medications to the country.
Before you go, was there any presence of the people who had been protesting, specifically the Association of Persons Living with HIV, to give their immediate reaction to what happened today?
No.
All right, thank you very much, Ebenezer Jekum. He covered that ceremony for us, Alfred.
Let's stay a bit further on this matter, and thankfully we have Elsie Aye, who is the president of the Network of Persons Living with HIV and AIDS. She's joining us on the telephone. Madam, I appreciate your time here on Hot Edition, and these delays, unacceptable as it was, but yes, today it's been 14 out of 182. We understand containers have been cleared. Better late than never, is it not?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much for giving me this very wonderful news, because I wasn't there. We are here celebrating ARVs at 20, but my colleagues were there. But we also wanted to be sure that the media were present. And so I listened to the reports from your media person who was there, and based on that, I believe that we are getting somewhere. At least we have gotten 14 of those containers out, and I hope that the remaining would also be brought out, with expediency, so that we could all have the access to the commodities, because it will take quite a long time before those commodities reach the facilities, reach our people who need them. There are other processes that have to be followed. FDA would have to go to look at all the containers, and based on the conditions in which they are found, they can tell certain whether they are okay or they are close to expiry or something based on their conditions. So all those things will have to take place, but at least we have 14 of the containers out and being worked on, and on the way to getting to the facilities eventually.
The last time
So
we spoke, I recall you indicated that the medicines that have been cleared today, especially the antiretrovirals, the expiry date is what, 1 year away from now, correct?
Yes, 1 year away for now. But we were also cautioned by our colleagues in the medical fields that it depends on the conditions under which they were stored there for almost 1 year. And that is why the FDA would go there first to check before it's taken away. They would have to ascertain the condition under which those containers had stayed over this period.
So the FDA will do that assessment?
Yes, they will do that assessment.
Okay. Now, the antiretrovirals in the system that you have, you say you just have 1 month supply. By end of May, the antiretrovirals in the system would have been finished.
Yes.
I see.
That is true from the stock levels now and the consumption, yes.
By May, if this hadn't been done today, the antiretrovirals would have been finished in the system.
And it's something I don't want to think about. So I'm so relieved that at least we've gotten some of the containers out.
Do you know how long it will take for the FDA to go through this process of assessing the wholesomeness or otherwise of the medicines that have been cleared today? I
do not know. I was sent that information during the process when we were trying to realistically know when the commodities will reach the facilities. And then we're told, you are overlooking this process which has to take place first. And then you can imagine they may not look at they may not just say, this container looks okay. I mean, if they are doing their work, they would take samples from, mix them or pick them from all over to be sure that they are in good shape. So that has to take, and that takes time. And today is the weekend. Today is Friday. So tomorrow, Saturday, I don't know if Saturday and Sunday they will be working, but it would take quite some time. And I hope that since these things have been brought out now, they would expedite action so that we can get at least something, the medications to the facilities before end of May.
Madam Beatrice here, I wanted to get clarity on what you said earlier. When the question was asked about when the drugs are expiring, particularly the antiretrovirals, I think you gave the confirmation of next year and then added that it depends on the condition in which they were stored. I want to get an understanding of that. Does it mean that if they were stored in bad conditions, they could be ineffective or they would be in bad shape even before the 1 year, and the contrary could be true?
Yes, the shelf life would reduce if they were not well stored.
Again, the last time you held that press conference asking for the drugs to be cleared, you gave some statistics of how many people have died over the period, over the last 1 year, and how many infections. Would you say that those numbers are higher than when we didn't have this issue of drugs stored or stuck at the ports?
We can't, thank you very much, we can't really say that it is due, the higher numbers is due to the drugs being stuck at the port. There are so many other reasons. One of the key reasons is that we haven't been very proactive in prevention, in preventing new infections, in giving the information out there. So, and even people who don't know their status, persons living with HIV who don't know their status or who don't want to know their status but are indulging in sexual activities are spreading it. So those who are reaching out, who are also part of that activity, don't even have enough information to insist on use of condoms, even if they do. Condoms have been out of stock for over a year. You get it? So the whole system to support prevention had broken down. So so many other things would contribute to the new infections.
I see. Madam, I appreciate your time on this matter, and thank you. Thank you so much for this information, and we'll certainly be monitoring how long it will take for this process to be employed, and also for the message to get through to you. It's one thing that we're really, really committed to. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition. LCIM is president of the Network of Persons Living with HIV and AIDS, joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We are live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. There's news just coming through that the former NPP Member of Parliament for the Ejisu constituency, Kwabena Osu-Ediomi, has decided to contest the upcoming by-election as an independent candidate. That's the news just coming through here on Hot Edition. Now, his decision stems from what is perceived to be the reluctance of the NPP leadership, the national leadership, to address crucial concerns regarding the existing delegates' album, which he believes undermines party integrity and fairness. In a statement issued by his campaign aide, Nana Osei-Bonsu, earlier today, it was revealed that Mr. Osu-Ediomi's decision was largely influenced by the irregularities observed during the Ejisu polling station executives elections. These irregularities, including the alleged arbitrary selection of individuals by the late MP for Ejisu, John Kuma, and the regional executives of the NPP, were deemed unacceptable in a democratic society. Portions of the letter we're going to be putting on the screen on Facebook right now. It quotes that the genesis of this decision traces back to the tumultuous Ejisu polling station executive elections marred by irregularities that would have been deemed unacceptable, and they make the point that such actions have rightfully stirred vehement protests from contentious party members and stakeholders across the nation. The issue has even found its way into the courts for adjudication, underscoring the gravity of the situation and the need for redress. So that's what's coming through, that the three-time Member of Parliament for the Ejisu constituency, Kwabena Osu-Ediomi, has decided to contest this by-election as an independent candidate. And this is one that, if you've been listening to Hot Edition for the past 3 days, it wouldn't come to you as a surprise, because our colleague William Evans Income did predict that this was going to happen. He's joined us on the telephone, and William, appreciate your time. Your would you say, prophecy has come to pass, William, that indeed Kwabena Osu-Ediomi is going as an independent candidate, at least based on the details of the statement that has been issued today.
Well, absolutely. So he's taken his form on April 16th. That is also a confirmation from his camp. So Kwabena Osu-Ediomi is going as an independent candidate. Now, the challenges that he's having, he and his team are having, has to do with the emblem. So one symbol that he chose for his posters, one, he earlier chose a star, but that was actually jettisoned by the Electoral Commission because they had said somebody was using that particular symbol. Then he chose Jinyame symbol. As I'm talking to you now, that one too has been jettisoned by the Electoral Commission. So they are now opting for a new symbol, but I understand he's likely to use a symbol of a tractor, which also is an emblematic of what his career is. You know, he's an engineer, and for that matter, it's something that relates to the kind of work that he does. So that is by way of the latest development from the camp of Kwabena Osu-Ediomi. But the bottom line is, on April 16th, Kwabena Osu-Ediomi, the three-time Member of Parliament for Ejisu constituency, will be contesting against his own party.
I see. Now, at least based on what we are seeing in the details of this letter communicating his decision to contest as an independent candidate, he talks about some issues in court regarding the electoral album. Do you have an idea of what's going on in there?
Well, absolutely. So in 2022, the album was put together. That was after the election of polling station executives, something that, it received a lot of contentions. There were even claims that that particular site was held at dawn and all of that. I mean, several claims against the conduct of that particular polling station executive election. So it wasn't only Kwabena Diomi who had issues with it, and that, for that matter, decided to take the matter to court. Even Budu, who was also eyeing to contest the late Dr. John Amputia-Kuma, was also interested in going down the legal path of law, exploring the corridors of the law, just to see if there's going to be any change as far as the putting together of that particular album is concerned. But it is a snack. So it is that album that they use to vote the constituency, regional, national, parliamentary, of course. The late Dr. Amputia-Kuma went solo or went unopposed. But even before that, they used that same particular album to vote for the presidential, to vote during the presidential primary. So it is an album that has come to stay, but they call it the John Kuma's album.
All right, thank you very much.
And William, we do know that there's preparation already ahead of tomorrow.
Well, absolutely.
For
absolutely.
The NPP?
So, yes, absolutely. So the Forestry Commission Training Center will host over 1,000 delegates tomorrow. That is going to be the sole voting center for this particular exercise. So that place is already ready. And I mean, at the entry point, you see posters everywhere. I mean, posters of the 9 candidates everywhere. That's what I call the avalanche of posters everywhere at the entry point.
William Evansinkum, I do appreciate your time on this matter. Thank you very much. So that's the news just coming through, as confirmed by William Evansinkum, who's our Northern Bureau Chief, our Chief of Central Regional Correspondent in there. The former NPP Member of Parliament for the Ejisu constituency, Kwabena Diomi, has decided to contest the upcoming by-election as an independent candidate. He was defeated by John Kuma in the run-up to the 2020 election during the NPP primaries, and we understand he has declared his support for Alan Kojo Chamanting, the breakaway, that group from the NPP. He is part of these persons, but what we do know as well is that he's still serving in some capacity within this administration. So it stands to reason how things will play out. But there's one portion of this statement communicating his decision to contest as an independent candidate that reads that Honorable Osu Ediome's decision to contest the by-election as an independent candidate underscored his unwavering commitment to upholding democratic values and ensuring transparency and accountability within the NPP, which cannot be found now. By refusing to participate in an ostensibly flawed process, he sends a clear message that integrity and fairness must prevail, even at the expense of personal political aspirations. So that's what he's decided to do on the score of what's been happening in there. Dr. Jonathan Sanchocho is going to be joining us in a bit. Beatrice?
Yes, but before we do that, as you might have heard Evan say, all is indeed set for that New Patriotic Party primary that is happening tomorrow ahead of the April 30 by-election. Now, after a successful vetting and approval of all 9 contestants, the primaries finally comes off tomorrow. The National Democratic Congress at this time has given indication not to contest the elections on April 30. And you've just heard that here from, since we started this program, that the former MP who contested John Kuma has decided to go independent. Let's get some more on this. I'm joined on the line now by Jonathan Asante-Otre. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otre, he's senior lecturer at the UCC. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Beatrice.
You're welcome. Are you surprised by the development less than 24 hours ahead of this crucial primary for the NPP?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, in the sense that, I'm reliably informed by the decision of the former, MP of that area, how he's complained in the past, about the album that was used to elect the late, Dr. John Kuma, and for him it was flawed. And he is of the view that, the party hasn't done anything about that particular album, for which reason he stands to lose. Because I was thinking that if John Kuma is no longer, alive, and you contested him, I think you stood a better chance, at winning the polls than all the other 9 contestants, that are clamoring for the same position. So that is why it surprises him. But I think that he's probably of the view that to contest, within the same bracket will mean, conforming to the very thing that he had complained about, of which he lost the primaries before the 2020 elections. And so I think that he's doing that on principle. For me, it still creates problems for the MPP in an area where, the focus, has been. And you could see that the Ajeso, constituency, they voted massively for, Mr. Lele John Kuma, Dr. John Kuma. So I'm not surprised per se about this particular development.
You're not surprised by it. You just said that you think it would create problems for the MPP. How?
Yes. What that means is that after the 30th April elections, he is likely to, if he should not win, he's going to contest the 2024 elections as an independent candidate. And don't forget that most often than not, when things like that happen, if the MPP is not careful, the NDC candidate is strong enough and is on the ground, it could easily pull through.
So you foresee a Fomena kind of situation unfolding?
I'm not too sure if he's such a strong candidate like, the Fomena one. If you look at the Fomena one, there was that groundswell support for him by the indigenous people, not necessarily the executives. So if he should align and identify himself more with the grassroots, the very people within the constituency, instead of relying on a few number of executives who will be telling him things that he will want to hear, then I think that he could pull that kind of surprise. And that means that if he's able to pull such a number to the extent that he may not win, but will affect the MPP's candidate, then it means that the NDC's candidate, if is strong enough, can easily win the 2024 parliamentary seat of that particular constituency. But that will be an extreme, though, because we have not heard that so far. That place seemed to be more aligned with that of they seem to have that allegiance with the MPP.
So what
but the mysterious death of the MP in itself, if it is not well answered, could affect the MPP candidate that will emerge. And they can easily sway, that can easily sway in favor of Mr. Owusu.
So what you're saying is that you think that constituency primarily is for the NPP, so it doesn't matter who represents the party. If the party is organized enough at the grassroots level, the NDC cannot take the seat away from the party.
Yes, they may not be able to do so. But I'm saying that if the NDC candidate is strong enough and Mr. Owusu is equally strong, what that means is that there will be a split of vote between Mr. Owusu and the MPP's candidate. So if the NDC candidate is able to get a certain number, then he could win he could win the parliamentary seat over there. But that is an extreme version. But I'm adding that if Mr. Owusu is solid on the ground and the death of Dr. Kuma appears to rear its ugly head in the politics of the day, as far as that particular constituency is concerned, the indigenous people who are not delegates can easily decide to vote against the MPP candidate by voting for Mr. Owusu as a way of sending a message to the powers that be within the party, that is the MPP.
I see. Well, that's understood. In fact, if you look at the results, the election results records of this constituency, it sort of gives indication to some of the things that you have just indicated, Dr. Asantewotwe, because, for instance, for the 2020 elections, John Kuma polled 82.83% of the total valid vote cast. That's 68,326. As against the NDC's George Kwame Jose, who polled some 14,164. That's about 17%. So 82.3 as against 17% for the NDC. I really would struggle to see the NDC pull through, even if there is any confusion of a sort within the NPP, especially because of the numbers. And it's not just 2020 alone. If you look at 2016 as well, Kwabena Usu-Ediome, who is going independent now, polled 83.79% of the votes. That's about 54,508. As against the sister of the NDC candidate in 2020, Gloria Kojo Huse, who also polled 14.58%. So the NDC has not gone beyond 17% in that constituency. If you look at 2012 as well, the former MP who is going independent now, polled 81%. As against Augustus Andrews of the NDC, 11,826, which was just about some 18% in there. And then the same in 2008 as well. So clearly, the records in that constituency does not favor the NDC. But for the candidature of Kwabena Usu-Ediome as an independent candidate, seeing that he's consistently in all these three instances that he contested, polled over 82% of the total valid vote cast. Do you see him polling substantial numbers as an independent candidate as against as a party NPP candidate over the three periods that he contested?
Yeah, that is a possibility. But in every election, the dynamics are different. Does he have the wherewithal now? Is he in the good books of the generality of the constituents? How would the constituents, see him? As a victim or a perpetrator or a bad loser? So if he appears to the constituents as someone who is a victim of a perpetration of how do I even put it? Like, if the constituents have a disposition about him, being that he's been victimized, and that means he will gain the sympathy of the constituents. Now, if he is still in the minds of the constituents, not just delegate and executive, if he's still in the minds of the constituents, then he could pull a huge surprise. He could pull a huge surprise. And if he has a wherewithal, we could easily have another phenomenon. We could easily have another phenomenon. And that could be worsened by the fact that if the propaganda surrounding the mysterious death of Dr. Kuma is used as a political message, then the MPP, whoever they will elect to represent that particular constituency, will have a huge task, because it will amount to a corporate damage of a sort. He may not have done anything, but the constituents are angry to the effect that the party itself, the mother party, is the one that they will want to punish. And that way, they will want to vote for the independent candidate. You see, I don't see how, if you look at the records, the NDC, I don't see how the NDC could make any impact over there. But if you consider what Kou, the by-elections at, is it Kumewu? Yes, Kumewu, right? Mm-hmm. The by-elections at Kumewu, you could see that they shot up their vote over 1,000. And if that is anything to go by, then it means that if that is replicated in other constituencies, then they will have some kind of increased number in terms of votes in Ashanti region. And that will be quite impressive. So that apart, they may not win, but they will make that kind of impression that will reflect positively in the presidential election, so to speak. So as for the MPship, they may not make that kind of desired impact. But in terms of the presidential, we are talking about 50 plus 1 in terms of percentage. And so that will inure to their benefit. But as I'm saying, if we are limiting the argument to the constituency, then I think that if Mr. Owusu should play the cards that I have mentioned, being the victim, seeing that the mother party has perpetrated a kind of unfairness against him, and then there's the death surrounding Patakuma, then I think that he will be making some kind of headway.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your expert analysis. As always, Dr. Jonathan Asan-Chochri is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, political analyst as well, joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Some 90 minutes, so they are 6 p.m. We've had some hitches on our Facebook page. Unfortunately, we're unable to stream now on Facebook, but we're sure our listeners that the program is being recorded and will be uploaded later. The full program on Hot Edition will be uploaded later, so kindly forgive us on that one. So that's the information for many of you who are sending us messages about the hitches we're experiencing. We'll have to halt the stream on Facebook. But if you're just joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, the information is that the former New Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for the Jiso constituency, Kwabena Osu-Ediome, has decided to contest the upcoming by-election as an independent candidate. He held that seat on the ticket of the NPP for 3 terms and was defeated ahead of the 2020 elections by the late John Kuma, but he has decided to contest this by-election as an independent candidate. Prior to this, he had declared his support for Alan Kojo Chemantin's movement for change. Now, just coming through as well, the government has admitted that 67 entries were mistakenly included on the list of projects featured on the performance tracker following its launch. In a tweet, the Ministry of Information expressed appreciation for the significant interest shown by citizens in the tracker. If you go on X right now, it reads, following the successful launch of the performance tracker, the government expresses gratitude that this level of engagement demonstrates the public's commitment to ensuring the accuracy and integrity of the information provided. Within 48 hours following the launch, the Ministry of Information's attention has been drawn to 67 entries which were erroneously included. So they said they have corrected the 67 entries, according to them, that were wrongfully added to the performance tracker. And this is in response to a lot of the fact-checking that, for instance, we here at 3FM and also on TV3 have been doing on this performance tracker that was launched 2 days ago. So that's the information coming through from the Information Ministry.
Indeed. And now the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industries has blamed the slow progress of work on lack of funding for some major government projects. This is coming at a time the Minister for Works and Housing, Kojo Nkrumah, is also crying over the slow pace of work on the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. The initiative aims to improve flood risk and solid waste management whilst enhancing access to basic infrastructure and services in flood-prone, low-income communities within the Greater Accra region. Let's listen to what Kojo Nkrumah said earlier today.
As the compensation is paid, the project-affected persons in these areas are moved. And then more importantly, we secure these areas so that we don't have people returning to them to repeat the very things that have caused these water channels to be choked and which then eventually lead to the flooding situation that we're having. So happy to know that compensation is now being resolved, validation being done in some areas. And so when that compensation is paid, and I understand that in the coming weeks we're going to do it, when it is done, let's make sure that the people move, and more importantly, we secure those lots so that people don't return to repeat that one.
You heard the Works and Housing Minister Kojo Nkrumah. Let's listen to the CEO of the Chamber, Emmanuel Cherry, who responded to some of the concerns that were raised earlier.
The minister admitted that one is about financial challenges. Most of the project, almost 90% of the projects you're talking about the sanitation and the cities and what have you, boils down to funding. Contractors, we are ready with the capacity that's supposed to have been. Give us the opportunity now, and we are going to deliver it well. But the challenge is, if you deliver and the raise certificate for payment to go and complete and finish the project, it becomes a challenge. So government itself must take pragmatic steps to make sure that we make the funding available, so that immediately contractor goes to site. If he raise certificate, it must be honored for him to finish and wash his hands out of it. If not so, we'll keep visiting the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Right.
Number two, the minister admitted that indeed some of the contractors don't have the requisite capacity. So the delay is coming for some of those particular contractors. So we insisted that the minister should give us names of those particular contractors, that we track them ourselves and see who are they. Because at times, we have political contractors or food soldier contractors just come and mix us with us. So that's even the reasons why we need our authority.
Now, Mr. Cherry also is pushing for the enactment of the Construction Industry Development Authority law in Ghana, and he tells us why he's asking for that.
The impulse of this particular bill, number one, is that we need to sanitize the construction industry landscape entirely. Today, anybody gets us and call himself or herself a contractor without a requisite, proper licensure or proper regulations or policy documents supporting that particular person. So every day in and out, you see that people get up and then call themselves, I'm an artisan, I am a carpenter, I am so, I am a contractor, so. What are the measures? How do we assess these particular people and then group them according to their classes? That's number one. Even though we have a classification at the Ministry of Works and Housing, the Ministry of Roads and Highways, but that alone is not enough for us to, build capacity of our contractors, our artisans, take proper measures to license them so that their operations can be tracked, as well as to generate revenue into the state kitty. Today, anybody, as you see, can go and buy a hammer and say it's a carpenter. But take the person to site, it becomes something else.
Right.
So it happens that most of our artisans, our workforce, are coming from the neighboring country. How do we track them? How do we benefit from them as well? So all this gamut of issues is going to be cured by the introductions of Construction Industry Development Authority. If it comes, number one, is going to lump all the players within the construction industry together and then give the proper registration and the proper accounting system. Because today, if you should ask, how many contractors do we have in the country? We can't say. How many artisans do we have? We don't have any register, no national data to that effect, which is a worry.
And you heard the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industries, Emmanuel Cherry.
Now, executives of the Western Regional GPRTU are locked up in a meeting over their decision to increase transport fares by some 20%. Two transport unions have rejected the unilateral increase in transport fares by the Western Region GPRTU, describing it as illegal. Now, the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, GRTCC, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, have both opposed the move. The fare adjustments have impacted various routes. For instance, the fare from Takoradi to Kwekuma has increased from 6 cedis to 7 cedis 20 pesos. And some of the commuters were actually forced to pay this new fare. At least for the last 48 hours that we've been monitoring there. While the journey from Takoradi to Accra now costs some 78 Ghana cedis, up from 65 cedis. That's about almost 13 cedis increase that we saw between Takoradi, the commuting from Takoradi to Accra, and that has already generated some reactions, especially the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Many of you who have also been talking about this. And also similarly, the fare from Agona Kwanta to Akwada has also risen from 18 cedis up from 15 Ghana cedis. The 3 cedis addition, as we saw in there. And the route from Sekondi to Takoradi now costs 6 Ghana cedis, up from 5 Ghana cedis. Now, we'll get through to Nanaya Ayanta, who is the communications manager of the Western Region GPRTU shortly. This is because we have information as well in a statement that was issued by GPRTU and Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, urging commuters not to adhere to any proposed new transport fares that have yet to receive official approval. Now, this announcement comes in response to The Transport Operators Union and the Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana declaring a 30% increase in transport fares effective April 13. That's tomorrow. These two unions have indicated that these announcements that have come through, 30%, 20%, are illegal and nobody should pay. Now, we want to find out if there are any measures in place to, as it were, ensure that those who would want to charge these illegal fees are brought to book, because commuters may just be left at the mercy of these drivers beginning tomorrow. So that's one thing that you want to stay with us here on Hot Edition. We'll get some details of shortly after this quick break with coming up through with the business news. Juliana Menuafo is standing by shortly after this quick break.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition. And in our first story, Fitch Solutions, a ratings agency, has revealed that Ghana's economy has begun a recovery after 2 difficult years. In its April 2024 Sub-Saharan Africa macroeconomic update, the UK-based firm said the country's economy will expand by 3.5% in 2024, contrary to the World Bank's 2.9%. Senior country risk analyst at Fitch Solutions spoke to 3 Business.
A very difficult 2 years, I think, for Ghana's economy, with growth in 2023 having come in at a pretty muted 2.9%, as you can see on the left-hand side chart here. That said, I think there are some signs that Ghana's economy has finally started a recovery, with growth in the last quarter of 2023 having rebounded, coming in at 3.8%. And the uptick in growth was primarily driven by an improvement in the agricultural sector, as well as stronger activity in the services industry. So turning to 2024, so looking ahead, we forecast that the economy will expand by 3.5%. So still below the country's pre-pandemic trajectory, but markedly better compared to last year. And the primary driver of economic growth this year will be consumer spending, which will be supported by moderating inflation, as you can see on the right-hand side chart.
Well, that was senior country risk analyst at Fitch Solutions, Mike Kreniger. Also, Ghana's inflation of 25.8% is the 6th highest in sub-Saharan Africa, according to the April 2024 World Bank Africa Pulse report. Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Malawi, Nigeria, and Ethiopia came first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth places, respectively, in sub-Saharan Africa. The report revealed that food inflation of 29.6% was higher than headline inflation, which is 25.8%. It added that though inflation is cooling in most sub-Saharan African countries, it still remains high. In more stories across the country, there have been several attempts to break the new world records in recent times. These endeavors often draw crowds from both far and near, eager to witness the pursuit of historic achievements. Businesses are increasingly capitalizing on the influx of attendees at such events. In this special Friday feature, my colleague Michael Igbodu reports from the latest Guinness World Record Kibabathon attempt.
The forecourt of the Legon City Mall is usually very quiet and peaceful, but it appears a lot has changed.
He wants to do it for a month. I will be here because business has been so good.
Atinga Nsombela Joel is currently undertaking a Guinness World Record attempt, aiming to achieve an impressive 90-hour barbecue marathon. As he embarks on this 3-day event, crowds are flocking to the Legon City Mall to witness history in the making. For businesses present at the event, the surge in foot traffic translates into lucrative profits.
Because it's Kibabathon, everyone had to empty their stomach. So people are just buying and eating and having fun because there's so much to eat and drink.
We have been overwhelmed because we didn't think of people coming to fill this place. And since morning, people have been here throughout. And you can watch, even it's about 9 something, but people are here. Oh, if he's going the marathon, we are going to be with him. We are doing the sellathon and the shoeathon.
In addition to vendors profiting from the event, ride-hailing app drivers are also experiencing a surge in demand shuttling patrons to and from the facility. However, for attendees, it's all about the exhilarating experience.
We are having fun, and we tried the kebab. It's going on well. We have fun. We play some games around, and then everything was nice.
I see you're busy with your kebab.
Oh yes, the kebab is nice, and I'm enjoying it. It is good to be here. I'm having a lot of fun today.
For Joel, this might just be an opportunity to write his name in the books of history. And as many people troop from across the country to support him, it appears to be an opportunity for businesses to cash in. Michael Obudu, 3 Business, Legon City Mall, Accra.
Well, that was a report by my colleague Michael Obudu, ending the business segment on a hot edition. My name is Benua Afol. Sports News is up next. To stay tuned.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Let's start from the local scene where Asante Kotoko fans have been angry with the clubs from in recent months at the Ghana Premier League and are calling for Prosper Ogum's head. The club lost 2-1 at home to Nswatreman on Thursday night and haven't won a game in their last 6 matches. Let's listen to what the fans had to say.
Se coach Ogum, coach Visa, club here come and want to me because coach Wanyadio, Bobo, we try and we are. Shadow I knock Morrison. What may knock Morrison? Why you will sit some crankra? I think you Bobo, Ogum, coach, well, lecturer, Yanka Drogum is a black class. I'm actually idea, and I tell for a boy, I'm a boy, your coach. Who be written now? Who be say up and down? If it's a down, now up. Now, Ogum, or Sasa, no, come over Trebak, no improvement. Now, supporters, the Kamugulu Sasa, Trebak, and Pat.
Those were the fans for Asante Kotoko. Now, here are their next 3 fixtures in the Ghana Premier League. Pretty tough one. They'll be going to Daewoo to face Dreams FC, who are the CAF Confederation Cup semi-finalists. After that, they would visit the league leader Samatex and also will be facing the defending champions Mediama SC. So tough 3 fixtures there for Asante Kotoko. But what is happening with the overall fixtures in the Ghana Premier League for this weekend? Of course, Hearts of Oak will be playing against Karela United. Aduana will play against Hearts of Lions. Dreams FC will be playing against Asante Kotoko. Bechem will play against Royal Tamale United. Mediama will play against Legon Cities. Nations will play against Bofo Kwatano. And Nswatreman will play against Great Olympic. Samatex will play against Brekum Chelsea. And Accra Lions will be playing against BBNE Gold Stars. Let's move on to the Premier League, where Arsenal are looking to maintain their grip on the top of the table as they host Aston Villa at the Emirates Stadium this weekend. Mikel Arteta spoke to the media ahead of the game.
We will know the results. We still have our duty to win our game, which is the only thing that we can control. That happened a few times already. It's going to happen again the next few weeks. It's just focus on what we can do, what we can control, and make sure that we performed like we have to do against a really good side to try to beat them.
That was Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta. Still on the Premier League, Manchester City will be looking to stay in the three-horse race as they welcome Luton to the Etihad Stadium. Here is Pep Guardiola ahead of the game.
We have to. Premier League is so important, and I expect a game more similar that what happened in the Premier League when we won 2-1 at the end than the FA Cup, and we have to be ready. So it's 11 months fighting for the title. We know the position that we are, that we cannot drop points.
We cannot drop points, according to Pep Guardiola, the head coach of Manchester City. Now, here are the fixtures in the Premier League. Newcastle will be facing Tottenham. Brentford will be facing Sheffield United. Burnley will face Brighton. Manchester City will face Luton. Nottingham will face Wolves. Bournemouth will face Manchester United. Liverpool will face Crystal Palace. West Ham versus Fulham. Arsenal versus Aston Villa. And Chelsea will be facing Everton. To our last story, Novak Djokovic moved a step closer to his first Monte Carlo Masters title since 2015 by beating Australian Alex de Minaur to reach the semi-finals. World number one Djokovic edged a messy second set, which saw 7 breaks of serve to seal a 7-5, 6-4 win. The Serb is through to a men's record 77 semi-final at the ATP 1000 event, surpassing Rafael Nadal. Djokovic will play Norwegian 8th seed Casper Ruud or Frenchman Hugo Humbert for a place in the final. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Belishan, and of course the Hot Edition continues.
Belishan, thank you very much for the details in the world of sports. Remember, there's more news on 3 Sports. Make some time and visit 3 Sports across all social media platforms. It's so live here on Hot Edition. It's 5 minutes after 6. We're also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. And executives of the Western Regional GPRTU are locked up in a meeting over their decision to increase transport fares by some 20%. Now, 2 transport unions have rejected the unilateral increase in transport fares by the Western Regional GPRTU, describing it as illegal. Now, the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, GRTCC, and the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, have both opposed the move. The fare adjustments have impacted various routes. For instance, the fare from Takrady to Kwekuma has increased from 6 cedis to 7 cedis, 20 pesos. That's 1 cedi, 20 pesos increase. We also have the journey from Takrady to Accra now has gone up to 78%, up from the 65 that we saw in there. Now, similarly, the fare from Agona Nkwanta to Akwada has also risen from 18 Ghana cedis up to 18 Ghana cedis from 15 Ghana cedis. That's about 3 cedis increase as well. Now, the route from Sekondi to Takrady has also increased from 6 cedis up until 7 cities. Now let's go onto the telephone lines and speak to Nanaya Ahanta, who is the communications manager of the Western Regional GPRTU. Nanaya, I appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening.
We understand that you've been locked up in a meeting over this decision to increase transport fares in the Western region by 20%. What's the outcome of the meeting? That is, if you've concluded as yet.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me say a very good evening to your cherished listeners. Also the update from the meeting, we had a crunch meeting with our drivers, that is our union members, to comply with the directives from the National Secretariat. But it's unfortunate that they are saying they can't withdraw their decision because they are overburdened with prices of spare parts and also each and every day increasing of fuel. The Western Regional Secretariat is keen to address this issue But it's unfortunate that our union members are not happy about the outcome. However, they are also appealing to the government to, as a matter of urgency, make sure that something is done about the transport fare. So currently, as I'm speaking, the increment is ongoing, and also one thing I would say clear is the Western Regional Secretariat haven't received any letter from the national level stating we should suspend the transport fare, the increment. So far so good. That's the outcome of the meeting.
I see. So even though you impress on your members to not charge the 20% increase, they have disregarded you, the leadership, your directive not to do so.
Not necessarily they have disregarded us. It's because of the current state of the economy, how things are going up each and every day. Alfred, can you imagine, or if, I don't know whether you know about it, there were an increase in fuel price today. I don't know whether you know about it. That is why they also satisfied that no, we can't suspend the increment. We need to go by it because things are overburdened and they are feeling the heat of the economy, how the economy is going. Like I said, we are still in talks with them that they will comply with the directive. So whatever comes out in the coming days, we will let the public know about it.
Well,
but one thing we should also take clear that they've also, given out. They also. I'm not saying it's not a warning, but they're also saying that if the regional secretariat do not do anything about the increment or with the suspension, if they go on to tell them to suspend the increment, they will rather go on a sit-down strike. So this afternoon, we had a report from some of the branches that they are on red band, of which with the red band they are registering their grievances to the government that, look, things are very difficult, so the suspension of the increment in transport fare won't be possible. Like I said, we are still in talks with them so that they can comply with the directives from the National Secretariat. We are all doing our best. Thank you.
But Nanaya, there's an express instruction from the national head office of your that's JPRTU, that do not implement this 20% increase. It is illegal. Don't charge it. And then you are saying that because your members are saying, well, things are expensive, fuel prices have gone up, so you can't even control your members. That's what's happening right now?
No, sir. Alfred, one thing is when you say that the Western Regional Secretariat can control their members, I won't agree with you because, when we talk about the GPRTU, it's about the drivers. They make GPRTU. They are on ground. They are feeling the heat. So when you say that we can't control our members one way or the other, I won't agree with you there. But, one thing we should also understand is with the National Secretariat, with GPRTU, across all regions, we deal with the National Secretariat and we deal with letters. So far from in the morning till now, we haven't received any letter from the National Secretariat stating that we should withdraw or we should suspend the increment.
I see.
So
I don't think there's any contention about whether you should increase or otherwise. In fact, there are many people who say that with what's happened, yes, maybe there has to be an increase. The margin of increase is what the issue is, so that the Western region will not be seen to be unilaterally increasing your transport fares when the other regions have not announced an increase in transport fares. It is the unilateral action that you have taken. That's where the concern is, that you have gone ahead of the national.
Alfred, when you say that, we are the only region that has increased the transport fare one way or the other, like I said, I won't agree with you because when you go to other regions, they've increased their fare as well. But when you say that the percentage is the problem, I think in our release that was on Friday, we stated in that we are open to constructive dialogue. So we are open to constructive dialogue. So we are welcome. So anything that's from the government, we can sit down and arrange things well, then we all move. Because I can see that when the government calls us and we sit down to arrange everything in order, it will be a win-win situation for both of us. So that is it.
Madam Beatrice here, you don't agree with the fact that Western region is the only region that has increased transport fares unilaterally, because this is against what the national union is asking for. You also disagree with the fact that you cannot control your members within your region. And then you are saying, you are also disputing the fact that your members are disregarding that directive, as it were, from your own office to them not to, excuse me, ma'am, I'm not done, for them not to charge. Do I hear you sadly justifying why they are taking these amounts, and you're just openly telling us, really, well, we will talk with them, but deep down within, you don't seem to have any problem with what you're doing, because you said that transport, other transport equipment and all the other things that the drivers need have increased.
You know, one thing I will also state is clear is not that our people are disregarding, that they are disregarding us, no. But the thing is, you know, we all know what is going on in the country, and I'm not disputing that fact that, okay, so based on what is going on in the country, so we should, you know, but we should also bear with them what they are also passing through. And, you know, the passengers too, we have them at heart. We think about them, because initially they requested for 50%. We had to go down, we speak with them on several occasions before we arrived on this. I'm not justifying that, but we should also bear with them that things are very difficult in the country. That is why we've increased it to the 20%. That is, again, I would say that we are open to constructive dialogue. So whatever the government wants us to do, we should sit down, go on the table and discuss everything so that both parties will be satisfied. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I just wanted to find out, instead of going ahead for government to now engage you, why didn't you rather want to engage government before going ahead with the increase? Now that you've announced the increase, you're saying, well, you are open to engagement with government. How does that work?
Oh, actually, please. Earlier before the release came out, we already engaged the government. So, you know, for that one, we already engaged the government, of which we were hoping that the government will also come to us so that we can sit down and put things in place. But it's unfortunate that we had little, you know, let me say, the government, the approach was not much. Let me say that.
I see. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you. Nanaya Ahanta is the communications manager of the Western Region Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU. In fact, some of the drivers in the Western Region have been also backing the decision by the GPRTU in that region to unilaterally increase the transport fares in there. We'll be joined by the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council in the bit to find their reactions to this matter, because they have issued a press statement indicating that commuters should not pay any increase in transport fares that have not been approved by the national offices of both GPRTU and the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council. Now, in the midst of this back and forth, it is you and I, the commuters, who are caught in the middle and of all of this confusion, because if you show up at a lorry station and the driver is asking you to pay an increase, disregarding the directive from this National GPRTU office and then also the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council office, you're left with the option of paying and sitting in and going to your destination, or deciding to stay and not pay for it. But this is just Western Region drivers talking.
Ghana hamutum ya din pa. Abidjan haya. Petrol 39 cedis a gallon. 39. Who converted to ya 39. 7 good years ni omu tu lori from da. Nsu ha what to musa ya kwan. What to musa ya kwan. Enye bia mpese bi so. Ka no mo na mutoma e. Ka no mo na mutoma e. Ka no mo na mutoma e. Muto petrol mo boya mane e. Muto petrol mo boya mane. Ani na drivers nkwa yetu ye di mana mo kasa. Masa, sisi Ghana na wano bia mo pio. Ekwe market sisi ala. Inde mo ko se no kokko tre 5 cedis. E mo 1 cup 30 Ghana. Ono bia nkasa. Ye kwa fit last week. Last week is last 2 weeks. What from 5 to 6 times he. An Ghana bia nkasa. For fuel for chan. Spare parts. Petrol use you petrol for wo kan in the net 6 million, 6.5, 7 million. Now observers you to board joint ends. You do me talk in the insurance you now go for we increase it. There must add.
Those are some drivers in the Western region. Some 20 minutes after 6 here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Welcome to Campaign Trail.
And on Campaign Trail tonight, South Dime Member of Parliament Roxy Nelson Dafiamakpo has called for a total audit of the IT system at the Electoral Commission. He argues that the EC's inability to account for the lost BVDs and laptops is criminal. His comment comes after the national chairman of his party, Johnson Asiedun Katia, also raised concerns about the EC's IT system. Dr. Tanko Rashid Computer, Deputy Director of Elections for the NDC, joins us on the line. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening, my dear. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. Dr. Computer, there was an IPAC meeting this week. Did the matter of missing laptops come up?
Very well, yes. In fact, we had a 3-item agenda on the day that we had the IPAC meeting. Chiefly among them was the by-election at the GSU. The second was about the registration exercise coming up. And then the missing BVRs and then the DVD issues. So it was on the agenda. We discussed it thoroughly. The Electoral Commission came up, you see, to vindicate the minority leader. You remember the minority leader held a press conference and indicated that there were some number of DVDs got missing within the Electoral Commission, their operations and all that. And they came out and rubbished it and said, no, the minority leader was not telling the truth. But interestingly enough, at the IPAC meeting, they admitted that some DVDs got missing along the line during the the District Assembly election. They mentioned Takwan Swam specifically that some 5 DVDs were missing. Later on, changed the missing to vandalized, of which my boss asked them if the DVDs were vandalized, then they should give footages of the vandalized DVDs. Because if you say something as vandalized, once you initially came and said it was missing, then later on changed the missing to being vandalized.
So,
yes.
After the meeting, we spoke to the Deputy General Secretary of the party, Mustafa Gbande, who said that yes, it was raised, but the party wasn't satisfied with the explanation from the Electoral Commission. You're just telling us that it was discussed thoroughly. So I'm getting to communication here and want to know really what your issue
we
is.
gave them 35 questions, and they couldn't answer the 35 questions. My boss took time to raise the 35 questions before them. And we're not satisfied because the discussion they brought out there, they couldn't answer the 35 questions. So it's right. What my Deputy General Secretary said was completely right.
But you're just saying that it was discussed thoroughly. What do you really want?
If something is discussed thoroughly, doesn't mean that we accepted what they put out there.
So what do you want?
Because we gave 35. If you imagine you raise 35 questions, my dear, Your guess is as good. And they couldn't answer. They told us that we should give them time for them to get their technical people to help them answer the questions. And we followed it up by saying that if you knew these things border on technicality, why did you go and organize press conference to rubbish what the minority leader was saying? Only for you to come and tell us that they were missing DVDs. And don't forget, up to now, 28 of the DVDs cannot be accounted for.
So I hear you say in this interview that EC said they were missing. At another point, the EC claimed that they were vandalized. And you've asked for pictures of evidence. I mean,
of the vandalized one. They couldn't give us pictures of
yes,
that.
aside from that, what exactly do you want? Because you've been raising this issue over and again. This will be like the 5th or 6th time we'll be talking to the NDC about this very matter. What exactly do you want?
What we want is an external body to come and investigate and audit the IT system as well as all equipment under the care of the Electoral Commission. That is what we are looking for.
Did you tell the EC at that IPAC meeting?
We told them that we are not satisfied with the answers they are given, and therefore we need a further investigation about what is going on.
So this very demand, I'm asking about this very demand that you need an audit into the EC's IT system. Was the Commission informed during the IPAC meeting?
We raised that one, the audit issue. It is not only that the BVDs or BVR issues. We also raised issue about the register. And you remember, just yesterday, they issued another memo to the original directors to give them information about discrepancies about the existing register. So you see, when we raise issues and Ghanaians don't take notice of it, this EC will go and implement it on the blind side of even Ghanaians without knowing that it is NDC who is pushing them to go and do the right thing. Because we raised issue about the register. People went to vote during the district assembly election and they didn't find their names in the register. We raised the issue only for yesterday for them to issue circular to all the original directors that they should give them information about discrepancies in the register. Can you imagine?
Okay, so
we are not going to satisfy that. That's what we are calling on. In fact, we are even going to meet the diplomatic mission and write formally to Parliament to call an external audit organization to come and audit them.
So that was a bit of a response from the Electoral Commission yesterday based on that circular you talk about that we haven't seen. But the bit about the BVDs, when you raised the issue that you needed an independent audit into the EC's IT systems, as it were, did you get any immediate reaction or response from the Commission?
No, they haven't. They haven't responded. You know, all the questions we raised before them, they said they needed their technical people to help them answer those technical questions. So sometimes we ask them, if you know all these things border on technicality, why do you rush to go and be holding press conference and be rubbishing things which border on technicality, which you yourself you seems not to know? These are the issues because we are talking of laptops. And we told you these laptops are not ordinary laptops. You are talking of 5 missing laptops. They are not ordinary laptops. These are laptops that have specialized software put in them to capture database of Ghanaians who are qualified to be registered. So if somebody pick the laptop, it's just like taking the heart of somebody, a human being, and expect that the human being should live. If you cut a person leg, the person can still survive. If you cut the arm of a human being, the person will still survive. But if you remove the heart of the human being, do you think the person will survive again?
Well,
that is what they are telling us.
I see. So it's the independent forensic audit that you need into this matter.
Very well. That is what we are calling for. Independent. You remember in 2012, MPP called for audit of the IT system of the Electoral Commission in 2012 before the general election. And it was granted. UNDP supported that and funded the process. Now that we have seen that things have started missing in their care, under their care, they have CCTV cameras all over the place. Go to Electoral Commission. It's like you are in Somalia. Heavily built military men and police are all over the place. And yet items are even missing day in, day out from the place. And that is why we asked them the 35 questions. They couldn't answer. Not even one question they could answer. And then when we raise issues and they come and rubbish it, they go behind the scene and start implementing it one by one. Just today, I'm surprised you have not seen the memo sent to all the regional directors. They should give them information. Discrepancies in the register. We raise this issue. But Ghanaians are quiet. Civil society are quiet. The Special Peace Council. I don't know what that organization is doing. With all these problems, they are quiet. They are silent about it.
Well, Dr. Tanko Rashid Computer, thank you very much for this update. And it's an issue that we're keeping tabs on quite strongly. So we'll definitely see how things play out. Thank you very much for joining us.
The pleasure is mine.
28 minutes after 6. We have some news just coming through before we go here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. A man believed to be in his late 30s has been beaten to pulp by a group of motorcycle riders at Sinyabreko in the Wotu-Sinya West District of the Central Region over an allegation of causing the disappearance of a colleague's rider's private part on Tuesday, April 10 at around 10 p.m. at Zion C Basic School at Sinyabreko. A group numbered about 30 welding metals, stones and sticks stormed the residence of the victim, identified as one Isaac Saint, and alleged that a Pragya rider informed them that his private part had gone missing after he picked the victim. According to some eyewitnesses, this Pragya driver claimed this vanishing genitals a few minutes after dropping off the victim at home. So this is one that the police, we understand the Sinyabreko police later accompanied the complainant for a medical examination at the Sinya Polyclinic, but found that his private part was actually intact. So that is what is led to this disquiet now. He told the police he had visited a spiritual healer at Jehovah El Shaddai 7-day Sabbath assembly at Sinya who prayed for him. Well, the police have arrested this gentleman as we speak for further investigations. So there's more of that on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com for more of this. But well, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Alfred Ocansey.
And my name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Do join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight, and tomorrow morning also on 3FM 92.7 and TV3 for The Key Point.